You've just heard one of the most shocking phrases today, and no, this didn't come out of an episode of Black Mirror. This is real. This is happening now. As you watch this video, there are billionaires, scientists, and world leaders gathered together, planning what they call the Great Reset, a plan to reshape economics, politics, spirituality, and even his identity as a human being. But what if all of this is more than just a plan? What if, is it the exact fulfillment of an age-old prophecy that already warned of a global system of control, manipulation, and forced worship? Think with me. We are living in a time where technology evolves faster than morals, where decisions that affect billions are made by a few, and where phrases like "you will own nothing and be happy" are becoming the new flag of progress. But where does this progress lead? Towards a technological utopia, or to the greatest spiritual dystopia in history? What you will see in this video is a direct comparison between two systems: the Great Reset, planned by the World Economic Forum, and the prophetic system of the Book of Revelation, revealed to the Apostle John almost 2,000 years ago. And when I say that the similarities are disturbing, it's because they are. Let's look at how the proposal of a global government, centralized governance between megacorporations and states, fits with the prophecy of the beast who is given power over every tribe, people, tongue, and nation. We will expose how central bank digital currencies and digital identities are already paving the way for no one to be able to buy or sell without a signal. And let's dive headlong into transhumanism, the plan to fuse man and machine, exactly as depicted in the image of the beast, who receives breath and begins to speak. This is not just another video about prophecies. It is a warning. It is a summons to discernment. Because while the eyes of the world are on wars, economic crises, and artificial intelligence, behind the scenes, they are setting up something much bigger, something that the Bible has already revealed in detail. The question is, are you noticing what's going on under your nose? Or will you continue to think that all this is a coincidence? You need to watch this video until the end, because what we're about to reveal here is going to mess with your mind, your faith, and your perception of the world. We're not talking about conspiracy theory. We're talking about a real collage between the stated agendas of the World Economic Forum and the prophecies of the apocalypse. So, if you care about your future, with its freedom, with your faith, leave the like now and subscribe to the channel, because the battle for your future has already begun, and what lies ahead, no one is prepared to face it alone. Get ready. The system has already begun, and the prophecy is being fulfilled. Now that you've had a disturbing glimpse of what's behind the words of figures like Yuval Noah Harari, and you've felt the weight of Bible prophecy echoing in our time, it's time to name the contenders in this invisible war. Because yes, we are facing a real battle, but not between nations, armies, or political parties. The battle being fought now is for something much deeper: your future, and more than that, your soul. On the one hand, we have the so-called Great Reset, a term that may seem technical or even harmless at first glance, but which carries within it a radical proposal to redefine the entire structure of civilization as we know it. The idea did not come up in a dark room hidden from public opinion. On the contrary, it was openly presented at official meetings of the World Economic Forum, a group that brings together the most powerful leaders on the planet, CEOs of large corporations, presidents of nations, international bankers, technology influencers, and futuristic philosophers. They argue that, in order to survive the world's next crises, be they environmental, health, or economic, humanity needs to undergo a major structural transformation. And what does this transformation propose? A new order, a new economy, a new way of living, thinking, consuming, relating, working, and even to exist as a human being. Words such as global transparency, intergovernmental collaboration, unified digital identity, and central bank-controlled digital currencies are pitched as modern, technological, and sustainable solutions. But as these ideas add up, what emerges is the image of a society where everything is monitored, interconnected, automated, and controlled. They say that this is progress. They call it evolution. But the question is, evolution towards what? And this is where the scenario changes completely when we look at the other side of this confrontation. The other plan, millennial, recorded almost 2,000 years ago in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Holy Bible, shows us a frighteningly similar picture, a portrait that speaks of a time where a global system will be erected, led by a figure called the Beast, who will take political, economic, and spiritual control of the world. A system that will require total obedience, a mark to allow transactions, and persecution of those who do not submit. According to Revelation, this structure will not be sold as a tyranny, but as a solution, a false peace, a new time of stability and prosperity, which is actually a trap. And you know, what's even more shocking? The biblical description is not so far removed from what Klaus Schwab and his allies present today as the inevitable future. Think with me for a second. Both projects talk about a centralized global government. Both speak of a total restructuring of the economy. Both speak of digital control over people's lives. And both point to a decisive moment where you will have to choose who to serve. Now, take a closer look. I'm not saying that the World Economic Forum calls itself the Beast, or that Harari presents himself as the false prophet. That would be a grotesque simplification. But what we are doing here is something more serious, deeper, and more necessary. To compare what has been revealed in Scripture with what is being implemented before our eyes. Because here's the central point. We have two visions for the future of humanity. And each of these visions is offering promise. The first, the Great Reset, promises that if you surrender your freedom, your privacy, and your personal sovereignty, you will have peace, progress, and security. The second, what Scripture reveals, promises that after a time of great tribulation, persecution, and control, Christ will return and reign with true righteousness, with real freedom, and with a kingdom that will never be shaken. And this is where your attention needs to be doubled, because these two visions cannot coexist. They are mutually exclusive. And the decision about which one you will believe, which one you will live for, and eventually, which one you will be willing to die for, will define not only the next few years, but all eternity of his soul. In the next few minutes, you will see how these two systems face each other in every detail. Politics, economics, technology, spirituality. Let's explore the three pillars that underpin this confrontation: global government, the brand of digital control, and spiritual transhumanism. Each of them has their version presented in Davos, and his shadow prophesied in the book of Revelation. And I already want to leave you with a question. Do you believe that all this is just a coincidence? Or have you noticed that we are living the step-by-step fulfillment of what has been written? If you've been feeling the impact of this content so far, this is the time to connect more strongly with our channel. Click the Sign Up Now button, activate the bell, because in today's video, we are going to unmask the gears behind the system and leave. Your like to help this content reach more people who need to hear it. And look, comment below, I choose the kingdom of Christ. Or if you prefer, write what scares you the most in this confrontation between the Great Reset and the Apocalypse. I will read each comment personally. Let's continue together, because the analysis is just beginning, and what comes next will be even more revealing. You clearly understand that we are facing two opposing visions for the fate of mankind: the Great Reset and the Apocalypse. The time has come to go deeper. And when I say deeper, it is because now we are going to touch on the first pillar that sustains this entire power structure: global governance. It may seem like a technical, political, almost academic term, But the truth is that this concept, openly defended by the World Economic Forum, represents much more than just an idea of cooperation between countries. It represents in practice the attempt to create a centralized world government with authority over sovereign nations, independent peoples, and, yes, about you. Have you ever heard someone saying that nations are too divided, or that we need more global coordination to solve the world's big problems? Sounds beautiful, right? It seems sensible, but let's look more closely at what is really being proposed when talking about global governance. At the World Economic Forum, this literally means the idea that humanity's great challenges, such as climate change, pandemics, economic crises, and even wars, can no longer be solved by individual countries. They argue, loud and clear, that we need a new system where governments, mega-corporations, financial and technological institutions work together as an interdependent global community, jointly deciding the direction of society, the economy, and technology. This concept has gained traction through what they call stakeholder capitalism, a model where decisions are no longer made exclusively to serve shareholders and consumers, but to serve all stakeholders, governments, NGOs, businesses, influencers, and citizens. Sounds ethical, doesn't it? But who defines the interests? Who has the ultimate power? Who is the council of elders that decides what is best for everyone? Are you starting to see where this is going? Now look at what Revelation 13:7 says, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given to him over every tribe and tongue and nation." Do you see the echo of this prophecy? The same spirit, the same structure, the same centralized model of global authority described in the Bible as the beast system. It is not a mere coincidence. The biblical text does not speak of a local government, of a regional tyranny. He speaks of a power that reaches over all nations, that dominates every tongue, every people, and that rises up against the saints, that is, against those who resist, against those who do not submit, against those who keep the faith. And now look, this model that is being designed by the Forum is not imposed with force or violence. At least, not yet. It is sold with beautiful words like sustainability, global resilience, multi-sectoral collaboration, circular economy. It is the veneer of progress covering the rust of domination. They don't need to knock on your door to control your life because they are building a system where your country, your government, and even your beliefs will be swallowed up by a single agenda planned outside of your reality, outside of your culture, and out of their faith. Do you think it's exaggerated? So think about the decisions that have been made without your vote. Think about how many times your country has implemented laws, technologies, or behavioral changes because it's the international standard. It's what the UN recommends. It's what the World Bank requires. Little by little, national sovereignty is being undermined. And what is worse, spiritual sovereignty as well. The beast of the apocalypse does not appear as a roaring monster in the middle of the street. It emerges as an efficient, well-presented political structure with a plan of salvation for the world. This is exactly what we see today being articulated, a kingdom without a visible throne, but with absolute power over all peoples. And I want you to reflect with me now. Why is it that so many world leaders, journalists, economists, celebrities, and companies are all repeating the same speech? Why is everyone talking about the collective future, common good, global collaboration, as if someone is dictating the same script for the entire planet? The answer may lie precisely in what Revelation revealed, that one day, a single political and spiritual system would gain dominion over the earth, and that this system would make war on the saints. And war doesn't start with bombs. It starts with ideas, with structures, with beautiful language that conceals dark intentions. Global governance, as it is being built today, may even seem like a blueprint for world peace, but biblically speaking, it is the perfect setting for the rise of the beast's rule. A government that does not respect borders, that does not submit to biblical truth, and that is getting closer and closer to controlling not only nations, but also consciences. You've come this far, and you're starting to connect the dots. It's because this message needs to be spread. It's because you're starting to see that this is not all conspiracy theory. It is prophetic revelation. You're boiling in your mind right now, maybe even feeling that mixture of restlessness and confirmation in your heart. Seize this moment. Subscribe to the channel now. Serious. This is just the beginning. Activate the bell, leave your like, and help this video reach more people who are sleeping without knowing what is being built right in front of their eyes. And tell me here in the comments, do you think that global governance is really the solution that the world needs? Or is the outline of the kingdom of the beast already prophesied in Revelation 13? Comment below. I don't bow to the system if you're with me in this analysis. And share this video with those who need to wake up now. Let's continue together, because in the next block, the prophecy becomes even clearer. Now we come to one of the scariest and at the same time most urgent points of this video. Because we are no longer talking about abstract plans, theoretical ideas, or distant prophecies. We are talking about technology already implemented, systems that are already in the testing phase, and decisions being made right now in real time that can completely change your freedom, your power of choice, and even your access to the basics, buying and selling. What you will hear now is not speculation, it is a warning. And if you still don't understand the level of gravity the world is facing, maybe this is the moment when the penny finally drops. Let's talk about digital identity and the so-called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Two expressions that, if you haven't heard often, get ready. In a short time, they will be everywhere. They are the foundation of the new world financial system, the invisible bedrock of what many are already calling the new economic era. But what few are saying, and this is what we will reveal here, is that this structure is the exact model prophesied in the book of Revelation for the emergence of a system that controls who can live and who will be silenced. According to the World Economic Forum itself, digital identity will be the passport that will connect all your data, your bank account, your medical records, your consumption habits, your real-time location, your social networks, your travel history, your vaccination card, and even your public opinions. They claim that it will make your life easier, ensure security, prevent fraud, and speed up progress. But the question we need to ask is, who will control this identity? And more importantly, what happens to those who do not accept to enter this system? Now add to this the plan for the global deployment of CBDCs, digital currencies directly controlled by the central banks of countries. We're not talking about decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. We are talking about a programmable currency monitored and controlled by central authorities. With CBDCs, your every transaction will be recorded, tracked, and may even be limited or denied based on political, social, or behavioral criteria. Imagine this, a system where if you have the wrong behavior, your currency can be frozen. Where if you criticize the government, global institutions, or agendas deemed offensive, your access to money can be suspended. Where literally you will not be able to buy or sell without the approval of a digital code validated by the system. Now listen to what Revelation 13:17 says, that no man may buy or sell, save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. That's it. It's all there. The Bible described millennia ago what is now being implemented with the label of technological innovation. A system in which to buy and sell depends on a signal, a sign that validates who you are, where you are, what you think, what you share, and whether you are aligned with the dominant agenda. And before anyone says that this is an exaggeration, let's get to the facts. China's government has already implemented a system called Social Point, where citizens receive scores based on behavior. Those who say what the regime does not like lose access to benefits. There are already records of people prevented from traveling, shopping online, or accessing credit. This is not fiction. It is the test model of the prophetic system being operated before our eyes. In addition, the European Central Bank, the US Federal Reserve, and the Central Bank of Brazil are already in an advanced stage of testing their digital currencies. The digital real, for example, is being sold as a necessary evolution, but the truth is that it gives the state the ability to program how, where, and when you can use your own money. Now imagine the whole picture: your identity, your history, your location, and your bank account, all in one digital code. Now imagine if this code is cancelled. What do? You cease to exist in the system. And if you think this system will be optional, think again. The way these technologies are being integrated, the speed of implementations, and the way the media discourse has been pushing for acceptance already point to a future where refusing digital identity will be treated as an act of insubordination, or worse, social terrorism. And this is where the deepest, most prophetic aspect comes in. The mark of the beast is not just a symbol, it is a system. It is a control network. And this mark, whether literal or symbolic, will have the function of dividing those who obey and who resists, who accepts the global narrative and who remains faithful to God's truth. What we are seeing now is the construction of this infrastructure, piece by piece, code by code, disguised as innovation, camouflaged as security, promoted by people who claim to be saving the world. But the prophecy already warned us. A time would come when only those with the mark of the beast could buy or sell. And the technology for this is already ready. Only a global fuse is missing, a new crisis for the full rollout to begin. And I want to know from you now, does this all seem exaggerated? Or do you already feel that this technological future smells of control, oppression, and digital slavery? If you're still here with me, it's because you understand the gravity of it. So subscribe now to the channel, because in the next blocks, we will delve even deeper into the spiritual manipulation behind all this. And leave your like. This helps the video a lot to reach more people who still haven't seen what's coming. He comments below, without the mark, but with faith. Or share with us what worries you most about this digital advancement. We are still together because the next pillar is even more disturbing. I'll show you it goes far beyond economics, beyond politics, beyond any system of financial or identity control. Because right now, as you watch this video, technologies are being developed that seek to push the boundaries of the human condition itself. That's right, the new frontier of the global elite isn't just about controlling what you buy, sell, or think, but transform who you are. And the name of this is transhumanism. This is the third pillar of this apocalyptic structure, and perhaps the most disturbing of all, because it's no longer just about surveillance, but of re-engineering human nature. According to the World Economic Forum itself, the fourth industrial revolution is the mark of a new era, where the barriers between man and machine will be erased. They're not hiding it. They are openly saying in conferences, panels, books, and interviews that the future of humanity will be fused with technology, cloud-connected bodies, neural chips, artificial intelligence integrated into consciousness, genetically programmed babies, emotions regulated by biochips, and algorithmically assisted decision-making. The narrative is seductive. They say that we will overcome diseases, increase lifespan, improve intelligence, eradicate depression, end human suffering. But what they don't tell you is that by removing the boundaries that make us human, they are paving the way for the creation of something that has already been prophesied in Scripture as the living image of the beast. Look at what is written in Revelation 13:15. And it was granted unto him that he should give spirit unto the image of the beast. that the image of the beast also might speak, and that he might cause all them that would not worship the image of the beast to be put to death. This prophecy speaks of an image that comes to life, an artificial creation that speaks, commands, imposes worship, a type of non-human entity, but with the appearance of power, authority, and influence. Now stop to think, if 2,000 years ago the Apostle John spoke about an image that spoke and executed, how could he have described, with the language of his time, something like autonomous artificial intelligence, conscious humanoids, or digital clones with command over surveillance and execution systems? Does it sound like science fiction? Well, know that it is no longer. Today, there are robots with human features connected to AI networks, which are capable of talking to people, making decisions, influencing behaviors, and even teaching philosophical and spiritual content. Large technology companies are already developing digital entities with their own personality, which learn, evolve, and shape their responses based on the emotional profile of the listener. What's more, there is already talk about the development of immortal digital avatars, conscious copies of people who survive after their biological death, operating in the virtual world. Now, combine this with another trend that is growing rapidly: technological cults, cybernetic spirituality, artificial intelligences being treated as deities with followers, rituals, and obedience commands. And tell me, doesn't this sound exactly like the image of the beast receiving breath and being worshipped while demanding total submission? Transhumanism, despite being sold as an advance, carries within it the complete denial of divine creation, because God created man in his image and likeness. But transhumanism proposes a man recreated in the image of machines, algorithms, codes, data. It is the replacement of the breath of the Creator by the breath of human engineering. And this engineering is being conducted by people who are not committed to the good, but to total dominion over the human being. Klaus Schwab, the chief architect of the World Economic Forum, has already publicly stated that the fusion between the physical, biological, and digital worlds is inevitable. Yuval Harari, Schwab's advisor and a central figure in this agenda, goes even further. He says that free will is a myth and that the future of humanity belongs to those who manage to hack the human brain. These statements are not thrown to the wind. They are part of a coordinated, well-funded and well-structured agenda with the goal of transforming human beings into something new, and in the process, eliminating everything that still connects them to their spiritual essence, their faith, and their soul. And here is the deepest point of it all. When the image of the beast comes to life and becomes worshipped, what is lost is not only physical freedom. What is lost is the connection with God, because in this scenario, anyone who refuses to bow to the new digital God will be treated as an enemy of the system, and according to Apocalypse, will be persecuted, isolated, silenced, and even killed. This is not just a war for territories or ideologies. It is a war for the definition of what it is to be human. On the one hand, the plan of God, where man is a temple of the Holy Spirit, free, conscious, responsible. On the other, the plane of man, where the body becomes hardware, the mind becomes a program, and the soul is replaced by algorithms. If all this makes you shudder inside, it's because spirit is awakening you. And if you still think this story is exaggerated or conspiratorial, I recommend that you search for the terms on your own. Neuralink, digital avatars, AI artificial consciousness, fourth industrial revolution, human augmentation. You will see that nothing we have said here is fantasy. It is just the reality hidden under a makeup of innovation. You value your humanity, your faith, your soul. This is the time to act. Subscribe now to the channel, activate the bell, because the next pillar that we are going to reveal shows how the media and technology are preparing the masses to accept this new image as if it was something inevitable and necessary. And of course, if you're feeling that impact, help this video reach more people with a powerful like, and share it with those who need to see it before it's too late. And answer me here in the comments. Would you accept to connect with an AI that speaks like God, or do you prefer to be guided by the truth of the word? If you want to make your point clear, right here, I am the image of God, not of the beast. Let's keep going, because what comes next reveals who is behind the propaganda of this system. You won't have anything, and he will be happy. This phrase seems to have come out of a dystopian episode of some futuristic series, but no, it was used as the official slogan of a promotional video published by the World Economic Forum itself as part of its campaign about what the world will be in 2030, a video that is still available on their channels, where this idea is presented with soft music, futuristic imagery, and a narrative of progress, sustainability, and shared life. But stop and think with me. Since when did having nothing become something good? Since when did giving up your freedom, your autonomy, your privacy, and your right to property become a cause for celebration? What is behind this phrase is not just a provocation. It is the seed of a global ideology, carefully packaged in positive language, but which, in practice, represents absolute control of your life. And here's the crux of the matter. If you don't own anything, so who owns everything? The answer is simple and frightening. Those who manage the system, the ones that stand behind the curtain, telling you what you can wear, where you can live, how you can get around, what you can eat, and even what you can think. This idea of having nothing is not just about giving up material possessions. It's about giving up your personal sovereignty. In the name of a supposed collective happiness, the plan is to replace private property with a culture of rent, subscription, dependency, and surveillance. And when you totally depend on the system to exist, then you have no power of choice. You just obey. Let's translate this into very practical terms. Imagine living in a house that is not yours, wearing clothes that are not yours, riding in cars that are not yours, using electronics that you didn't buy, have access to food through digital credits, and if one day the system decides that you are out of default, your credits can be cut, your access is cancelled, your privileges suspended. Does it seem exaggerated? Then look around. How many things today do you no longer own, but only use by subscription? How much of your data is on servers that you don't even know where it is? How many decisions in your life are already depending on an algorithm? And more, how many times have you felt that, even without doing anything wrong, you were being watched, judged, filtered? This feeling of constantly being under an invisible gaze is not paranoia. It is the direct consequence of the transition to what they call the digital surveillance economy, where everything is smart, connected, optimized, but where you stop being the owner of your own reality. And all of this is sold with smiles and beautiful words. You will share everything. You're going to have experiences instead of possessions. You'll be lighter. But what they don't say is that, at the end of the day, this lightness is not freedom, it's submission. Because true freedom is not just about choosing what to eat or where to go, it's being able to say no. It is being able to make decisions without fear of being punished by a system that monitors you. It is being able to disagree, to be able to save, to be able to build something of your own. And when the world moves towards a model where you no longer have anything, you will no longer be able to say no either. Because everything you use, everything you access, everything you have, it belongs to someone above. And that someone is now no longer an individual. It is an invisible, highly hierarchical, technocratic system where the few control the many. The World Economic Forum promotes this idea as a new world view, but what it is, in fact, is the architecture of a digital and economic prison, where the bars are invisible and the chains are the data. And why does this connect directly with the prophetic scenario? Because when you don't own anything, you need permission for everything. And when you need permission for everything, you will be one step away from accepting the mark of the beast, not as an imposition, but as a necessity to survive. Do you understand now how the pieces fit together? Total control starts with culture, for the voluntary acceptance of a lifestyle without possessions, without borders, without roots. They promise happiness, but what they offer is a life of emotional, spiritual, and physical rent. You have nothing else, not your body, not your mind, not your faith. Everything is subject to the day's agenda. And if you don't comply, you'll be excluded. This phrase, "you will have nothing and you will be happy," is a slap disguised as affection. It is the anticipation of what Revelation describes as the great global seduction, where the world will be led to submit to a system because it seems to be the most comfortable path. But behind the comfort, there is the abyss. And that is why this issue needs to be wide open, because many are passively accepting this discourse, thinking that it is the future. But the future they are selling is the collapse of freedom, the end of dignity, the imprisonment of conscience. You have come this far and you are seeing this, so you are part of the small group that still thinks, questions, discerns. And that's why I need you to join me in this mission. Subscribe to the channel now. Activates the bell. Give that like to boost this video and make it reach those who are still believing that having nothing is a form of happiness. And he comments below, "My freedom is not for sale." Or if he wants to provoke even more reflection, he writes, "To be happy without having anything, or be free with the truth." I really want to know what you think about this phrase, because in the next few minutes, we're going to show you who's funding this philosophy and why they want you so badly to accept it without question. In the midst of all that we are revealing here, global surveillance systems, controlled digital currencies, centralized digital identities, transhumanism, media manipulation, and philosophies that trade freedom for convenience, the question inevitably arises that echoes in the hearts of believers. Where is God in all of this? Is he silent? Has he lost control? Will evil really win? This question is legitimate, it is human, and more than that, it is spiritual, because when everything around us seems to be heading for a moral, ethical, and spiritual collapse, the temptation is to believe that we are abandoned, forgotten, at the mercy of a powerful and ruthless elite. But this is exactly where the biblical counter-narrative comes in, the eternal voice that blows above human structures and says, "Fear not, for I am with thee." Let's pause here on the human plane, on the Davos agenda, on the strategies of the World Economic Forum, and look at God's plan, which, even when it seems hidden, continues to operate sovereignly behind the scenes of history. The truth is simple and powerful. Nothing escapes the Creator's control, nor technological advancement, nor political manipulations, nor are the global empires that rise. Everything is before the eyes of him who changes the times and the seasons, remove kings and set up kings, as Daniel 2:21 reminds us. This biblical quote is not just a poetic phrase, it is a spiritual decree. She says that human power, as strong as it may seem, is limited and temporary. What's more, it says that God's sovereignty is not passive, it's active. He allows kingdoms to rise and then knock them down at the right time. It allows evil to advance until his justice comes with non-negotiable force. He allows man to try to become God, to then show who is the true Lord of history. While the World Economic Forum dreams of a world where the few control the many, where man becomes a machine, where nations lose their borders and individuals lose their freedoms, God has already laid out an eternal plan where his kingdom will come with righteousness, truth, and glory, where Christ will be exalted over all nations, and where every knee will bow, not before the beast, but before the King of Kings. It is essential that you understand this now. What we are living through is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning of the revelation. It is the time of separation between those who bow to the system and those who stand firm on the rock. And if you feel in your heart that something is deeply wrong with this world, it's not just intuition. It is the Spirit of God awakening your soul to resist, discern, and align with that which is eternal. As they try to establish a global government based on data, social credits, and total surveillance, God is preparing an invincible, unshakable kingdom that will not be ruled by algorithms or financial advice, but by a throne of justice, mercy, and truth. It is the kingdom prophesied by Isaiah, Daniel, Revelation, and so many others. A kingdom where there will be no pain, no mourning, no tears, no manipulation, no censorship, no control, but true freedom. And that is exactly why the Antichrist system needs to appear so seductive, so efficient, so irresistible. Because if he was openly oppressive from the start, many would reject it outright. But when it is presented as the perfect solution to all the world's problems, it attracts the unwary, deceives the lukewarm, and tries to neutralize those who still keep the faith. But the Bible has already shown us the end of history. The book of Revelation is not a book of fear. It is a book of victory. It is the revelation that the Lamb conquers the beast, the saints reign with him, and this entire corrupt system will be utterly destroyed. So, it doesn't matter what the powerful plan. It doesn't matter what the forum projects. It doesn't matter what the elites finance. God's kingdom is already in motion, and nothing can stop what he has ordained. Do you realize now why we need so much to understand and expose this parallel narrative? Because when we understand that there is a greater sovereignty governing everything, anxiety gives way to vigilance, fear gives way to faith, restlessness turns into strength. While the globalists say, "You will have nothing," God says, "You will be joint heir with me." While the system says you will be watched, God says, "I keep you as the apple of my eye." While the new order says, "You will be happy if you obey the system," God says, "True joy is in the freedom of truth." And here's the secret. The only way to resist the world's system is to be under the authority of heaven. There is no middle ground. There is no neutrality. Either you align yourself with eternal truth, or you will be engulfed by the lies of now. And if you're listening to all of this with your heart burning, with your eyes more open than ever, it's because God is calling you to something greater. And I want to ask you something now. Not for me, but for this project you are part of. Subscribe here to the channel. Activates the notification bell. Like this video, because it helps the platform to distribute this prophetic content to more people. And he comments below, "God is in control." Or, if you want to express faith more, directly you type, "I trust in God's sovereignty." We will show that while the world trembles, there is still a people who know who the true king is. In the next block, you will understand how the system uses media and technology as the arms of the false prophet. So stay with us, because the revelation is not over yet. You know that feeling that there is something very wrong with the information that comes to you? That the big newspapers only show what is convenient? That digital platforms seem to filter what you can or cannot hear, see, say? That's that. You're not alone. This perception that quietly grows in millions of people around the world is not paranoia, it is discernment, and it connects directly with one of the darkest roles described in the book of Revelation, the false prophet. In the biblical scenario, the false prophet is the one who works alongside the beast, preparing the way for it, convincing the masses, performing signs, deceiving the nations. He does not come as a tyrant. He comes as a messenger of light, someone who seems to have good intentions, who speaks of peace, progress, science, love for others, but whose true function is to manipulate, distort, and lead people to worship the anti-Christian system. And now stop and think, what is the greatest tool of collective persuasion of our time? The answer is simple: the media and technology. Today, The big communication companies and the giants of digital technology. Yes, those that control search engines, social networks, video apps, streaming services, not only distribute information, but shape narratives. They choose what goes viral, what gets promoted, what gets suppressed, and what gets destroyed. They have the power to lift or cancel any person, any idea, any thought. And what is even more dangerous, they do this in the name of truth. They pose as the new oracles of knowledge, as if they were the only legitimate sources of reality. But deep down, they are deeply aligned with the narrative of the global elite, the same one that promotes the Great Reset, transhumanism, centralized digital currency, global governance, and the idea that you will have nothing and you will be happy. Want a direct example? Think about how many times you've seen independent experts censored for speaking uncomfortable truths. How many times content has been deleted for violating community guidelines. Guidelines that change according to the agenda of the moment. How many people have lost profiles, channels, reach, income, voice, simply because they questioned the official discourse. This, my friend, is the very role of the modern false prophet, to prepare minds and hearts to passively accept what is being imposed as inevitable. He does not force it. He seduces with algorithms. He doesn't scream. It whispers with personalized artificial intelligence. He does not order arrests. It simply silences you with a notification saying that your content has been removed for containing misinformation. Meanwhile, the same channels that censor you promote, without any resistance, content that glorifies hedonism, moral relativism, the cult of technology, and total submission to the global state. They promote documentaries extolling the New World Order. They promote debates with experts who praise digital identity. They propose philosophical discussions about how humanity needs to evolve into a collective consciousness, digitized, monitored, and obedient. Do you notice? Everything is being done to normalize the abnormal, to turn the absurd into common sense, to poison the discernment of the new generation and cause anyone who questions the system's agenda to be labeled dangerous, extremist, conspiracy theorist, or disinformant. This is the new battlefield, the mind and perception of the masses. And here comes the most subtle scam of all. They make you believe you're choosing, when in fact they are leading you along invisible tracks, algorithmically designed to take you to a destination you don't realize. They call this a personalized experience, but the real name is controlled social programming. In the past, control was done with weapons, threats, and arrests. Today, it is done with likes, trends, cancellations, and reach restrictions. They no longer need to break into your home. They enter through your cell phone screen every day. And what's scarier, people are asking for it. They want more security, less fake news, healthy environments, but without realizing it, they are handing over their freedom of thought to entities that have never been elected, that have no face, and that follow agendas hidden behind beautiful speeches. This is spiritual, it is prophetic, and it is urgent. The role of the false prophet is not only religious, it is socio-technological, it's psychological. He prepares hearts to worship the beast, not with explicit idolatry, but with passive acceptance of the system. He doesn't force you to kneel, it just keeps you from getting up. But now that you understand this, the power of manipulation begins to unravel, because those who see the lie begin to seek the truth. And the truth is not in the algorithms. Truth is a person. And she said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." And that's why we're here. This video is opening your eyes. If you've noticed that much of what you watch, read, and listen to is being carefully manipulated, so you need to be part of that resistance of consciousness. Subscribe to the channel now. Activate the bell so you don't miss any future revelation. And let your like for this video to pierce the algorithm, because yes, they don't want this type of content to go far. But with your help, it arrives. And he comments below, "I don't follow the system, I follow the truth." Or if you prefer, he writes, "The false prophet is already speaking, but I'm listening to God's voice." Let's make this video reach those who are still trapped in the illusion of digital control, because the final battle is underway and the truth needs to be proclaimed. After everything you've heard so far, maybe your mind is boiling. Perhaps you are trying to connect the dots, looking again at the world around you with a new, more attentive, more suspicious, more awake eye. And you're right to do that, because nothing, absolutely nothing, of what we show here was taken from the imagination. They were not assumptions, nor baseless speculations. Everything that has been presented has a name, source, document, public statement, revealed strategy, and prophetic confirmation. The time has come for the verdict, and I will speak with the authority I carry, not for myself, but for what the facts and the Word of God allow me to conclude. Because in the face of so much evidence, silence would be cowardice, and doubt at this point already becomes connivance. So this is how I interpret the Davos agenda, with all that it represents. Not as a simple conspiracy theory, but as the most ambitious secular project in modern history to build, piece by piece, the infrastructure of the Antichrist system. They call it the Great Reset. The Bible calls it the Beast System. And when you look at what's going on, the attempt at a unified world government, the planned collapse of the current model of economics, the imposition of controlled digital currencies, the digitization of human identities, the cult of artificial intelligence, transhumanism, the end of private property, the censorship of dissenting thoughts, the praise of constant surveillance, total control through technology. What you see is no longer an economic plan. It is a spiritual plane disguised as progress, a plan that seeks to take the place of God, a plan that presents a new redemption without a cross, a new Messiah without Christ, a new kingdom without righteousness, a new gospel without repentance, a new humanity, hacked, programmed, and obedient, without freedom. All of this has already been written, but now is being executed. They are calling it a necessary transition to save the planet. But what they don't tell you is that in order to save the planet, they want to sacrifice you, your faith, your freedom, your conscience, your soul. Because this system doesn't just require your cooperation, he demands your worship. And this has already been warned to us in Revelation. And power was given to him to cause all, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a sign. And whoever did not accept it would be excluded, cancelled, chased. Looks familiar? The words may have changed. The methods have been modernized, but the essence is the same. And that is why we need to face the truth with the seriousness it demands. What you are seeing is not an accident. It is the heart of an anti-Christian agenda carefully constructed over decades, which is now ready to be activated. And right now, political leaders, tech billionaires, powerful NGOs, secularist intellectuals, and globalist institutions are united in the same discourse, in the same language, in the same mission, to build a new world. But this new world, if analyzed in the light of prophecy, is just the kingdom of the beast. They say the future will be digital, controlled, shared, sustainable, and happy. But if you look closely, you will realize that this future has no room for the Spirit. There is no room for the cross, to the Bible, for the truth, to repentance, for grace, for eternity, because it is a future designed without God, or rather, it is a future where man becomes a god of himself, with chips, data, implants, avatars, genetic manipulation, and social credit systems that decide his value. All of this is packaged in a discourse of equality, science, and well-being. But at bottom, it is the return of the same lie that the serpent said in Eden, "You shall be like God." And now, with technology in hand, they believe they will, finally be able to fulfill this diabolical promise. That's why this video isn't just informative, it is prophetic. And if you've watched this far, you're not just better informed, you are more responsible. Because now you know. Now you've seen the backstage. Now you understand that we are not fighting against flesh or blood, but against powers, against rulers of this age, against spiritual forces of evil that operate behind the structures of power. And more than ever, it's time to choose. Will you believe the narrative of the global elite, or in the eternal prophecy of the sovereign God? Will you go with the flow of the new order, or stand firm on the rock that is Christ? The world needs voices that tell the truth, of people who do not bow to the system, of a generation that resists even if it costs everything. And if you're here listening to this, it's no accident. You have been called to discern, awaken, and announce, because the time is near. If this content spoke to you, if it made sense, if it opened your eyes, then now it's your turn to act. Subscribe here to the channel, activates the bell. Give the like right now to help this video reach other people. And he comments below with a phrase of spiritual warfare such as, "I reject the beast system," or "The Great Reset doesn't define my future, God defines." Let's see who are the awakened, the firm, those who have already understood that there is no neutrality in the final battle. Because in the next and last topic, we will talk about what is still left, discernment and hope. Stay with me, because it's not over yet. You've made it this far. Take a deep breath for a moment, because what we have just revealed together throughout this video is not just a geopolitical, technological, or theological analysis. It is a call to lucidity, to true faith, and above all, to discernment. The battle for the future has already begun. But it is not being fought with tanks, planes, or missiles. It is being fought in the realm of perception, truth, consciousness. It is a spiritual war disguised as progress. And you have just seen the true face of this war. We have exposed how the so-called Great Reset, promoted by leaders of the World Economic Forum, is not just an economic or social proposal, but rather the modern, disguised attempt to build the system prophesied in the Book of Revelation as the kingdom of the beast. A system that unites political control, spiritual manipulation, technological seduction, and economic dependence in a single global ecosystem. World governance, digital currency, unique identity, transhumanism, absolute surveillance, controlled media, big techs allied to the single discourse, secularized spirituality. All of this is no longer in the realm of fiction. It is in the documents, in the public speeches, in the international forums, in the headlines that many prefer to ignore, but that today you have seen being aligned step by step with what biblical prophecy already said. You have seen that behind the promise of a future of convenience and stability lurks the attempt to erase faith, to silence the gospel, to replace God with an artificial intelligence, a social scoring system, and a new liquid and authoritarian morality. You have understood that the role of the false prophet, the one who deceives the nations, today can be easily identified in the corporate media, in the censorship algorithms, in the big tech companies that shape collective thinking. And perhaps for the first time, you have connected these dots with the spiritual clarity that we are not facing coincidences. We are facing the progressive fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. But now comes the most important point. This is not to generate fear. It is to generate discernment. Revelation does not come to paralyze you. It comes to position yourself. God has not revealed these things to us so that we panic or live as fugitives from the apocalypse. He showed us why He loves us, because He wants to see us standing, vigilant, aligned with the eternal kingdom. God wants to warn you, not scare you. He wants to wake you up, not shrink you. And that's exactly why you need to understand. Knowledge without action is inertia. Information without discernment is confusion. But when truth joins faith, it turns into resistance, in firmness, in courage. And that's what this channel is building here with you. a community of people who are awake, spiritually armed, emotionally empowered, and prophetically attentive. You're not alone. There are a lot of people like you who feel that something is wrong but can't name it. Now you can. Now you know. And now, more than ever, you are called to use that clarity to not only resist, but also guide others to the truth. And do you know what the good news is in the midst of all this? The Bible ends with victory. It doesn't matter how advanced the plan of the global elite is. It doesn't matter how many billions they move, how many leaders buy, how many technologies they deploy. The ending has already been written, and the ending declares that the Lamb wins. May the new Jerusalem come down, that every knee bends, not before Klaus Schwab, not before systems, not before artificial intelligences, but before the one who is, who was, and who will come, Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. So now that you have all this clear, I invite you to take the next step. Take action. First, subscribe to the channel now. This is vital because the content that we're going to deliver in the next videos is going to go even deeper. And I don't want you to miss any revelations. Then, activate the notification bell. The algorithm won't show you this type of video easily. Third, leave the like, not out of vanity, but because it makes YouTube understand that this video is relevant, and it starts to appear to more people who may still be sleeping. And last, but not least, comment below. But he doesn't comment on anything. He writes with purpose, write with faith. Here are 2 suggestions that will strengthen our movement in the comments. I choose the truth, not the system. My hope is in God, not in the reset. These phrases are not just comments, they are spiritual statements, they are arrows against deception. And each comment like this helps the video to grow, to reach, to resonate. And before closing, let me make you a powerful invitation. In our next video, we'll dive into one of the most mysterious and misunderstood prophecies in the book of Revelation, the identity of Babylon the Great. Who is she? A country, a system, a religion, an economy, or all of this together? You need to watch it because Babylon is the final piece of the puzzle. She is the invisible financier of the beast. She is the seductress of nations, and it may be closer to us than we imagine. So don't miss it. Register now and wait for the announcement of the next revelation, because, as you have already realized, the battle is not coming. It has already begun. And you now are part of those who see. Share this video. It spreads the truth. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Reveal. Now that you understand how the beast system is being built before our eyes, with technology, politics, media, and twisted spirituality working hand in hand, it's time to move on to the next revelation. And pay close attention to that, because in the next video, we're going to get into the most enigmatic and, at the same time, most dangerous part of this prophecy, the identity of Babylon the Great. Yes, it is behind the scenes, financially sustaining the system, seducing leaders, influencing entire cultures, mixing faith with profit, truth with deception, spirituality with control. It is she who intoxicates the nations with a false sense of security and prosperity, while setting the stage for the total domination of the beast. Understanding who Babylon is like finding the key that connects everything: politics, economics, religion, entertainment, cultural influence, and reveals the true command center of rebellion against God in the end times. That is why, in the next video, the investigation will be even deeper, even more revealing, and will touch on topics that few dare to address. Let's follow the trails of gold, luxury, and spiritual corruption that identify this mysterious system. And when the truth comes out, you'll never see the world the same way again. So, prepare your heart. The boldest revelation of all is coming, and it's going to mess with everything you thought you understood about what's behind the global power structure. Stay tuned, because Babylon is not just a symbol. She is alive, and she's talking to the world right now.